Imagine this. You're a young man struggling just to get by in this horrible economy. Your BS job is barely paying you peanuts, and things somehow get even worse when even your BS job decides they no longer need you and fires you out of the blue. You have no backup job offers, no career prospects, no support from your family. All you have left is a measly $1,650 in your bank account. What are you going to do? This is the exact situation Katie Wilson, the main character of our story, found himself in. He would go on to risk his life, not eat anything for 2 whole weeks to save up enough money to buy himself a one-way ticket to Japan and escape corporate America forever. Okay, so it starts out with this young guy in his 20s, and this guy is going through the typical bullshit that, we're all dealing with in this absolute horrible economy right now.
Japan, I was 26 years old. I had recently lost my job, and I went back to working at a movie theater called E Street Cinema in Washington, D.C. I had no other job prospects. I was completely broke, and I actually applied to over 100 jobs within the last 2 years with zero luck.
So this guy pretty much starts out in the same position we all find ourselves in today. He loses his job, he has no career prospects, he's applied to over 100 new jobs without getting any responses. I mean, this is the same BS we're all way too painfully familiar with these days. There was, however, one tiny small saving grace that he had working for him.
But this is what makes Japan so special. Unlike in America and other places in the West that care about who you know, Japan still cares about what you know. What I did have is a degree from an accredited 4-year university. Which brings me to my first tip. Having a degree makes moving to Japan effortless. But if you don't have one, don't trip. There's still a way for you to come here. More on that later.
You see, a big frustration I've heard from a lot of you right now is how a college degree is basically worthless these days. And this is true in America and in the West. We're all aware of this by now. But if you are someone who did get a degree and can't find any use for it in the West, one way it can still be useful is when you're applying for English teaching jobs overseas. Most English teaching jobs overseas only require a college degree, and to be honest, it doesn't really even matter what the degree is. It can be the most, BS business or liberal arts degree. I would actually know because in my personal journey, I also moved overseas to escape the system. Not having a college degree actually came back to bite me personally because, you see, I made the choice to go to college because I also, like a lot of you, saw how bullshit it was. And I would say for the most part, I don't regret it and I feel like it was the right choice. But I will admit it did make it impossible to apply for an English teaching job overseas, which made it a lot harder for me to move and settle. Now, so for those of you who did get a degree and, if you just can't find any work or any way to put it to use in America, I would say it is worth it to consider a move overseas as at least it'll be of some value there. Anyway, so this guy, he starts applying for some English teaching jobs overseas, and before long, he got an interview, and then this happened.
And during the interview, he was very professional, asked me about my schooling and past jobs. Then he asked me what my favorite American football team was. I told him the Baltimore Ravens. He said, me too. And then he said, you're hired. And yeah, I'm not even joking. And after 100 jobs telling me no, I had the easiest yes of my life. They were giving me a job and finding me an apartment, and all I had to do was get...
Okay, so just like that, he gets the job and problem solved. He has a decent job, and he's pretty much set from here, right? Not so fast. You see, this guy was struggling so bad in this economy that he only had $200 left in his bank account, and he still hadn't figured out a way to get to Japan in the first place yet. He didn't even have a passport yet, let alone enough money to buy an international plane ticket.
There. But there was a problem. I had $200 in my bank account, and I didn't even have a passport. I know, right? And I had to be in Japan 2 months from now. The solution.
Now, the stakes are incredibly high. I mean, I can only imagine how bad this guy was stressing out at this point. It's literally his whole future at stake here. He has a decent job and a decent apartment and a way out of this hell on earth we're all living in. But none of this matters if he can't get to Japan in the first place. He has essentially no savings, and if he can't figure out a way to save up enough money for a plane ticket and passport in the next few months, he has to go right back to his current hell on earth life in America of dogshit wages and nonstop job rejections, and who knows how long it will be before he finds another opportunity like this. This is literally his life at stake here. Now, he's still working at his minimum wage cinema job, so he has some income, but not nearly enough to save up enough for a plane ticket or a passport. So, with his whole life and future on the line, how did he make it? Well, he took the most extreme measures imaginable. He didn't eat anything for a whole 2 weeks.
I fasted to save money. Fasted from food. I did a lot of fasting to save every penny I could. I literally went 2 weeks without eating, and I lost 20 pounds. I'll probably never do that again unless I absolutely have to, but that just shows you how bad.
So, he ends up saving $1,650 over the course of the next few months, and he gets his passport 2 weeks before he has to leave. This gives him just barely enough money to afford the one-way plane ticket to Japan. This also represents his ticket to freedom from the soulless, bullshit, modern-day wage slavery system we're all so sick of and disillusioned with. Now, the story doesn't end there. In fact, it gets even more insane when he gets to Japan because he only has about $600 left after spending money on the plane ticket. And when he gets to Japan, this is where a truly insane plot twist happens. Unlike in America, where you get paid every 2 weeks, in Japan, you only get paid once per month. This means that he has to find a way to make $600 last for a whole month in Japan. And unfortunately, he can't just keep fasting because he already hasn't eaten in 2 weeks. And at this point, if he fasts for any longer, he literally could die. The craziest thing he has to end up doing is on his last day of work before he gets paid, he has no money for the train ticket to get to his job. He wakes up at 4 a.m. to prepare to take a 3-hour walk to work. But by the grace of God, he explains the situation to a Japanese native at the train station who is kind enough to offer to pay his train ticket and save him from having to walk 3 hours to school.
It was a 3-hour walk, and that's a 3-hour walk there and back. I woke up early, 4 hours early, to make this hike in dress shoes, by the way. And on my way to work, I stopped and I asked a man in my city for directions because I thought I knew where I was going with my GPS, but it was slightly off. He told me you could just take the train, and I told him, well, I didn't have money for the train, not until tomorrow. And I thanked him for the directions, and then I started my walk. And as I was walking, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around. It was the man, and he gave me 2,000 yen to catch the train. That's when I knew I was in the right place. The generosity of Japanese people is off the chart.
My story is just truly insane. And to me, it is kind of a ray of hope that even with how doomed everything is now, there are still potential ways out. I guess you just have to be next level diabolic, insane, and courageous to pull it off. You guys know me. I always keep it real with you. I would never tell you that you can work hard and make it the traditional way by going to college or climbing the corporate ladder. We all know that's delusional, outdated boomer bullshit at this point. You gotta just really think outside the box and be willing to put everything on the line like this guy did. In this fucked up, doomed world we're all living in, this might just be the only way to survive at this point. There's really no logical reason to stay in America and work a traditional 9-to-5 at this point, and anyone who's still telling you to do that is just making an emotional argument for the sake of political correctness. We expose this more in this video right here, so check it out. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.